Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for attending this wine seminar on a lovely Monday afternoon. We're very excited to be here and share the wines from Black Estate with you. Today I'm joined with my wife, Penelope. So we both would like to share our experience at Black Estate. So we hope that we can learn all about it, and Pen also has a lot of information to share as well. So as was mentioned, Black Estate is in the South Island of New Zealand, where we have a region called North Canterbury, 1 hour north of Christchurch, which is considered to be cool climate. Yeah, you'll be familiar with this map of New Zealand. Up here, of course, Marlborough, Otago, and here we are here. This is Christchurch, and to the south, and we're just to the north here. It's the 5th largest wine-growing region in New Zealand, and it is unique because of diverse and interesting soil types for wine, ranging from Glasnevin gravels in the south, Waikari limestones in the northwest, and Omihi clay in the northeast. This region is most noted for growing high-quality Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, but there are other varietals there, aromatic varietals, that also grow well in the region. With Chardonnay, you get a freshness and a crispness from the cool climate, and you get a texture and weight from the low yields. This also resonates with Pinot Noir, where you get a fine minerality underlying the texture and weight of the soil in the wine. So you have Pinot Noirs with lovely concentration, but also freshness. This region has a number of very passionate wine growers, and there is a lot of collaboration and sharing of ideas between the different wine producers. Yeah. Each wine grower faces a challenge of restricted yields, and so they work hard to bring out the best qualities and best flavors from their selected vineyards. So today we taste wines from Black Estate, and why we focus on these wines from the Omihi sub-district. Black Estate was established in 1994 by Russell Black, and our family purchased Black Estate from Russell Black in 2007. Penelope and I own the wine company and run the business, and Penelope's family own the vineyards and properties. So this is a cool climate region situated between the main divide mountains of the South Island and the coastal mountains of the Teviotdale Ranges. We feel a strong distinction between each season, where in winter we will have snow and we will be pruning in the frost. We would move through a turbulent spring with budburst, a warm summer to ripen the grapes, and usually a settled, calm autumn. On average, we would have 700 millimeters of rain per year, which means that we can sometimes not irrigate our vines. On your desk, you have some information in front of you, including this map, which was an illustration drawn by a former vineyard manager. These vineyards are situated in the northeast of North Canterbury in the Waipara Valley. This map shows in the bottom left, or the southeast, the home vineyard, and we'll be trying wines from each of the 3 vineyards here. This one is home vineyard. This vineyard is predominantly clay soils, and the original vineyard was planted in 1994, and then a new vineyard that we planted in 2011. If we drive northeast 10 kilometers, we get to the Damstep Vineyard. This vineyard is 100 meters higher in elevation than the home block and has predominantly limestone-derived soils. This vineyard was planted in 2000, and we purchased fruit from this vineyard in 2008 and purchased the vineyard in 2012. This map shows the 9 small vineyards throughout the block across this very steep hill. The 3rd vineyard that we own is the Netherwood Vineyard. This was established in 1986 by Russell Black and Daniel Schuster. This vineyard was established with no irrigation. It's planted at a high vine density and was the first hillside vineyard in North Canterbury. Our goal is to capture the freshness and purity of each of these three sites so we can translate the flavors and the sense of place in the wine as clearly as possible. So from the beginning of our farming practice, we were inspired by those growing with organic and biodynamic practices to enhance the health of the vines. Most of our work is in the vineyard to really nurture the vines and improving the health of the soil to grow very vibrant and concentrated fruit with strong aroma and flavor. Our vineyards were, we began using organic practices from 2007. Our vineyards were certified organic in 2017, and our vineyards are certified Demeter in 2022. With organic certification, we have guidelines on which practices we are permitted to use in our vineyard. And with biodynamic principles, we are given guidance and tools to help promote the health of the soil and thinking of the harmony of each of the three properties together. Biodynamic helps with some preparations that we can use in the vineyard to help enhance the vitality of the plant growth. And it also helps connect us, the people who are working on the properties, with the rhythms of nature and of the seasons. We find that by celebrating as much diversity and complexity of plant species and insect species in the vineyard, we find a balance in the properties that becomes quite strong. Since we have gained more experience with biodynamics, we find the wines have taken on a strong personality of time and place. So we make single vineyard wines to bring out the essence of each of these places. And the first wine that we have started with is the Netherwood Petnat. Netherwood Vineyard is shown in this photo, and as I mentioned, it is a site with sandstone soils. This wine from the 2022 vintage combines Pinot Noir and Chardonnay to make one wine. Grapes were harvested in mid to late March and hand harvested and then brought into the winery, which is actually at the Netherwood Vineyard. These grapes were slowly pressed using a Cremant cycle, which is like a champagne cycle. The juice was then settled in stainless steel tank and after 24 hours transferred to a fermentation vessel. Yeast, which were propagated from the vineyard, were then added to the juice and the wine fermented in stainless steel tank for 3 weeks. Once fermentation was almost complete, when the wine had around 20 to 25 grams of residual sugar, the wine was bottled. This wine then spent 12 months on fermentation lees in bottle before being riddled and disgorged. This wine is a very clear example of biodynamic grapes plus vineyard yeast to make wine with no additives. We make 3 single vineyard Petnats, but the Netherwood Petnat is the one with the most time on fermentation lees before disgorgement. The 2022 harvest was unusually humid in North Canterbury, so this meant there was more removal of leaves around the fruit zone leading up to harvest. This meant we had improved ventilation and light exposure for the fruit, which allowed us to get to the correct ripeness by harvest. We made just the one wine from Netherwood Vineyard in 2022, and this is the wine. The second wine we have poured for you is from our Damstep Vineyard, which, as I mentioned, is a vineyard with limestone, predominantly limestone soils. This vineyard has a range of aspects as it moves from the bottom to the top of the hill, and at the foot of the hill is the 2 hectares of Riesling. The Riesling vines grow across a range of aspects across this rolling hill, and we harvest this block individually over a 3-week period. All fruit is hand harvested, and we're looking to get each bunch at the optimal ripeness. There is no botrytis in this Riesling. We make this wine with very clean fruit with the goal of producing dry Riesling. The hand harvested grapes are slowly pressed, and the juice is allowed to settle for 48 hours. In 2022, we fermented the Riesling in small stainless steel tanks. These tanks are oval in shape, so you maximize contact with the lees during the fermentation and maturation stage. This wine ferments slowly using vineyard yeasts for up to 9 months, and then maturation also on the lees for that time. Because the wine is completely dry, we have bottled this wine unfined and unfiltered to retain all the intrinsic qualities of the wine. This is one of the few truly dry Rieslings in North Canterbury. North Canterbury Rieslings are distinct in their rich texture and flavour. The third vineyard that we will try with wine 3 is the home vineyard, which is clay soils. This vineyard has the original 8-hectare vineyard planted in 1994 and a new vineyard we planted in 2011. In the new vineyard, we decided to plant more Chardonnay, more Pinot Noir, and also some Chenin Blanc and Cabernet Franc. For me, North Canterbury Chardonnay is very particular because of the minerality and freshness from cool climate, and the texture and weight from low yields and heavy soils. In North Canterbury, you can compare Chardonnay from cool climate on gravel soils, limestone soils, and clay soils. The original vineyard at the home block was planted in 1994 with a vine density of 1,840 vines per hectare. These vines are ungrafted. The new vineyard, from which this wine is from, was planted at 6,100 vines per hectare. So the vines are much closer together and have more intervine competition. This stimulates their vine roots to go deeper into the soil sooner. With this, they become more independent and more expressive of the unique characters of the site. This Chardonnay was hand harvested and slowly pressed before being settled in tank for 24 hours. The juice was then transferred to 500 litre barrels with 10% new. The wine fermented and matured in barrel for 9 months before being bottled, unfined and unfiltered. So wine number 4 is one of the 3 Pinot Noirs that we will try today. And so we have 3 Pinot Noirs from each of our single vineyards. This Pinot Noir is taken from the original vines planted by Russell Black in 1994, and it's one clone, ungrafted, 10/5. These vines have grown with very deep roots through this clay soil, and typically, when young, have a deep and strong texture. With time and bottle, we find the wines from the home vineyards soften and the tannins begin to melt, make a very soft and sensual flavour. The fruit for this wine was 100% destemmed and fermented in open-top fermenter for 27 days. Plunging during the fermentation was done with hand and foot to get the correct extraction from the grapes. The wine was then pressed using a basket press and transferred to barrel for 12 months. The wine in barrel was then racked to tank and allowed to settle for 3 months before being bottled, unfined and unfiltered. This vintage 2021 was particularly challenging after budburst when we had a range of spring frosts. Budburst occurs around the spring equinox in September 22nd, and the frost events occurred in the middle of October. The remainder of the season was mild, and we had a long settled harvest so grapes were able to reach optimum maturity. Damstep Penin Noir is wine number 5 from the 2020 harvest. This harvest was very kind harvest. We had very settled conditions at spring, mild and warm conditions during summer, and then very calm conditions in autumn. The only problem was that when we came to harvest the grapes, the country was shut down with COVID, so we had to harvest the grapes with our restaurant team. This was a beautiful experience, having all of our staff, including chef and waiters, helping us in the vineyard. The season had produced fruit that was too good to leave hanging, so we were all very motivated to harvest the grapes. The fruit for this wine is shown in this photo here, where we have quite a steep angle and limestone soils near the surface. Different textures and minerals are made available to the vines, and the fruit that is produced has different flavors and expressions. Because of this difference in flavor at harvest and the aromas during fermentation in the vat and the tannin in the evolution of the wine, we have made a separate wine for Damstep to home. The other option would have been to blend the two wines together to make a more full wine, but then we would lose the individual expression of each vineyard. For me, the Damstep Pinot Noir has a very exotic aroma, a tension of tannin, and a fine minerality. Wine 6 is also from the 2020 harvest, so you have an opportunity to compare two wines from the same vintage. The predominant soil type at the Netherwood Vineyard is sandstone, and these old vines planted in 1986 grow through this sandstone soil. This vineyard was established with cuttings used from another vineyard, so it is a mass selection rather than taking clones. This vineyard was planted on a hillside to take advantage of better exposure and air drainage, which was unique at the time in North Canterbury. This vineyard was established without irrigation, so the vines have had to work hard to become established. We find the fruit from these older vines are small clusters with half a kilogram per vine. We find there is an increased maturation and maturity of flavors in the grapes and stems, so we retain some of the whole clusters. The winemaking of this wine is the same from the home Pinot Noir and the Damstep Pinot Noir, except it has 50% whole cluster. This way it accentuates the aroma of whole berry fermentation and accentuates the perfume and length of the wine. While we are able to make home Pinot Noir and Damstep Pinot Noir in most vintages, it is only in selected vintages that we are able to make Netherwood Pinot Noir.